Hello, Chad. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you.
So, what are we doing here?
What are we doing here? We are going to talk about our exploration journey that we're about to embark on. Right now is the prep work, and you and I really thought it would be important to document our journey, especially to help other people, if this is something that they want to do. And we are moving to we think Colombia part time. Part of this is that we get to explore that, right? And we don't have to stay in the same country, year after year. But I have a feeling that where you're from originally, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes, Colombia might be the place for us. So we're taking an exploratory trip in mid February. Going to stay there about 7 or 8 days and kind of check out the area. But today we're going to talk about the research that we've been doing um, and what that looks like. We looked at Spain, Puerto Vallarta, and Colombia. And I've done the most research on Colombia. So we talked about where you're originally from, and we're going to talk about the cost of living between all three, maybe their traditions, definitely the language, and how we're preparing to adapt. So, like, what are the pros and the cons?
That's exciting. So, you said Colombia, Spain, and then a specific city in Mexico. So, we have our countries, but what are the cities that we're looking at in Spain and Colombia?
So for Spain, it is the coast. So from Valencia all the way down to Malaga. And I think the closer we get to Valencia, the cheaper kind of the cost of living will be. Malaga is supposed to be beautiful and a little higher cost, but still affordable, if you will. Puerto Vallarta in Mexico is more expensive. It is extremely touristy, and I did look into that quite a bit. That doesn't seem to quite fit. Maybe a vacation there would be great, but it doesn't seem to fit what we're quite looking for. But Colombia, that that is the place where the cost of living is going to be significantly less, a fraction of what we pay here in the
All
States.
right. So, specifically in Colombia, what area are we talking about?
Sabaneta is about 15 minutes south of Medellin, or some people call it Medellin, whichever. And I've also looked at Envigado. I have looked at Medellin in places like El Poblado, Laureles. Laureles is a really great area. A lot of older folks live there. It's inexpensive, but Sabaneta is really inexpensive and is much safer.
That's a big deal. So, safety is going to play a pretty significant
Huge.
part in our decision, right? And
Yes.
we ran some numbers and we did research and we found a really cool site. I don't remember what it's called right now, but we found a really cool site that gives us safety, crime ratings, cost of groceries. It'll give you examples like how much milk costs versus eggs and you can compare them city to city. And one of the things that we wanted to do was compare them to the US. We found that every place that we're looking at is significantly more affordable than the US, right?
Yes, including healthcare.
Right. And healthcare, got to have it. So that being not only more affordable, but still quality. I think that's another piece of it. It's not that it's just cheap, but
Mm,
also you can still get the care that you need. Because the reality is the healthcare system in the US is super bloated. Things don't have to cost what they do,
right.
but Amy and Chad, there's nothing we can do about it. So controlling what we can control, we're looking at different destinations that we can have affordable but quality healthcare and still elevate our day-to-day life.
Sure. And in looking at Spain, undoubtedly, they have the best healthcare. They're in the top 5 or 10 actually in the nation. It's super affordable, anywhere from $50 to $100 per person. Incredible opportunities. If it's urgent care, if it's just a doctor's appointment, if it's the hospital, whatever it might be, really, really great healthcare. Little did I know, Colombia is like 22nd or 23rd in the nation as well. So excellent healthcare there. You hear a lot of people leaving the United States to go to Colombia to get dental work done, or they could get face surgery or whatever it might be, but they have some of the top hospitals in the nation there in Colombia. And that can range anywhere from $100 to $200 a month for everything.
So one of the things factor wise that we also have to take into account and that we've been doing with research is also our dog, Sadie. And
Yeah.
if you see her jump up on the couch or you hear her clicking around, it's because she's very much a part of our lives. So we're not locking her in a room to do these conversations, but she may jump in and out here and there. But also, what's it going to cost us to have her go place to place? And if we're doing this part time, 4 or 5 months at a time, what does that look like logistically, right? Does she have to be sedated? Is it allowed to be sedated? Right? There's all these factors. Mexico, drivable. Spain, it's not. Colombia, technically it is, but that's a really long drive. So there's a lot of factors that we also have to consider by having a dog, just as a family with kids would have to consider as
Right.
well. So, affordability is going to cost us, an extra $5,000 because we have to charter a private plane because that's the only way Sadie can travel, or it's the only way we're comfortable having her travel.
Right.
These are all factors we're taking into account. So, not just on how to do it, but does that destination make sense for us with the circumstances that we have?
Right. So us living in Michigan and just outside of Detroit, so Detroit would be where she would fly out of, obviously. My the research that I've done is that we would hire a company more than likely to help us with that. It may cost us a little extra, but they really take care of everything for us. So we would make sure that she was up to date on her shots because Colombia has specifics that you have to follow when you bring your pets into the country. So looking that up, making sure you can no longer sedate your dog. So that's out of the question. And will Sadie ride in the cargo hold? She's too big to ride up front with us. So that's unfortunate.
Yeah, she's 40 to 43 pounds, depending
Right.
upon the day, and that's too large. Your dog has to fit in their carrier and be able to freely move, and that carrier has to be the size of a carry-on, and she's too big for that.
Correct. And so, in another podcast, maybe we have another company here in the States that can hop on a call with us and talk about exactly what somebody would need. She is in her toy basket right now. So we are about to hear some squeaks. So we can do that on another episode, and that can give people more information, more detailed information about how to get their pet with them, because our goal is to live 4 to 5 months in another country. So almost half of the year, and then spend the rest of the time here at our main hub here in Michigan.
Correct. So some of the metrics that we looked up was costs and safety, and I just want to go
Yeah,
over the safety ratings really quickly. So
go for it.
the U.S., we found it was a scale of 0 to 100, 100 being the safest
Yes,
and 0 being super not safe.
right.
We found that Spain ranked, specifically the areas that we were looking at on the southern coast, were ranking right around 70%,
Correct.
which is phenomenal because when you look at the world as a whole, the absolute perfect place to live is 100. So to get 70 is really good as an entire region.
Yeah.
When we looked at Spain, or I'm sorry, Mexico, Puerto Vallarta specifically, that was around 64.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we looked at
Still safe.
yeah, for sure. And then when we looked at Colombia, do you remember that number?
So Colombia was very low. It's actually at, where is it? It's behind you. 40% or something like
Yeah, so
that.
it was at
It was
40
pretty
of,
low.
so it was lower on that safety scale. And so that's one of the factors that we have to take into account as
And
well.
that's all of Colombia. So where we will be specifically in Medellin and just outside of Medellin, it is actually safer. So if you also look at Spain, we're looking at the coast of Spain, right? Unfortunately, about 40% of Colombia is still um, the word I'm looking for here, poor. So they're very, very, very low income. The average amount for a Colombian resident is about $250 a month. A month. That is extremely low. So they do have a safety issue where the people will come in from those smaller towns just outside of Medellin or other Bogota or wherever, and they'll come in on a motorcycle and they will just snatch your phone right out of your hand.
Yeah,
So
that's
there's a lot
scary.
of that. Right. That's about survival for them. But if you're looking at like murders in the streets like it was back in the 80s and 90s, that is no longer happening. So,
All right, cool. So, metric wise, affordability, that's a key part. And we
yeah,
can obviously in later chapters and episodes dive super deep into the specifics. But for today's intro, what else do you have on your list over there that you want to talk about?
let's talk about Spanish. Can you speak it?
I can't. I cannot. So I'm from Colombia, born there. Was adopted, moved here when I was 2.5, and I had baby talk Spanish, if you will, right? So not true being able to communicate. I took 3 years in high school, and my third year, I had to try really, 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 really hard to get a D- so that I could withdraw from the class. So Spanish is definitely not something that I'm proficient in at all. I identify in a conversation if I'm eavesdropping, like maybe every 5 to 7 words, so I could piece together what the
Right.
discussion is, but being able to respond, that's not me. And I know that's something that it's important to be able to do that. If
Yeah,
I mean, three out of the three places we're looking at are all Spanish speaking areas.
correct. Spain, fortunately, we don't need to know a whole lot. Most of the people in Spain speak English as a second language. And Sadie, may I have the pizza? Thank you so much, sweet girl. Um, Puerto Vallarta is basically English as well. So we wouldn't really have any issues there. Colombia, on the other hand, the majority of the people there do speak Spanish. So it's going to be important for you and I to know how to at least say, where is the bathroom, or how to order food, or be able to talk to a landlord to rent, an apartment there. So, how to get a taxi, those kinds of things. So, general kind of stuff. But when we go to the market or to the mercado, we need to be able to have some knowledge around
And
that.
you're starting to do that already. You're speaking English, and then you're substituting in words that you know and saying it again, because everybody that
Repetition.
everything that you hear says immerse yourself, and you have a tutor, right?
I do. So I am not in any way promoting this business. However, it has been of great help to me. italki for $7 per 30-minute session. I work with a gentleman who lives in Bogota. He's born Colombia, raised in Greenville, South Carolina, and back to Bogota. So he is a competitive soccer player or football player. And so we meet every Tuesday, every other Tuesday for 30 minutes, and he has been amazing. So I'm super excited and I've had 3 years of Spanish too, but the way they teach Spanish over here, so different from the way it is when you're actually immersed in the culture.
It's gonna be like that proper textbook rather than what it's
Yeah.
like to actually communicate with humans.
Yeah. And there's different dialects. So what's spoken in Puerto Vallarta in Mexico or in Mexico City is very different. Even in different parts of Colombia, what's spoken in Cartagena is kind of a different dialect of what's spoken in Medellin. So I'm excited. You're
What
going to
else?
do great. You're going to be able to speak. And I think when I went to Cancun and when I went to Cozumel, I found myself speaking Spanish so often just to the people that worked at the hotel. So that was pretty cool. So I feel pretty confident. You'll do it. You'll be great.
We've even started substituting some of our dog's well trained, some of her commands, pairing them together to try and start immersing our dog into those commands too. Because it we're taking this seriously. I think you're definitely taking it a little bit further than I am. I'm it's kind of like um, when you're having a kid. The mother is instantly from day one a mother, and
And it's a win it. Yeah.
it takes the guy oftentimes all the way up until birth before it hits him. This is
Interesting.
fatherhood, right? Because you've been carrying that the entire time and bonding and becoming one with. And for us, that doesn't happen until it's there. Sometimes, not for
Yeah.
everybody. Same thing. I think that I'm a little bit delayed on joining in, but I'm sure I'll get there really soon.
Yeah. I think I know me and where I am in my life, and it takes me a little longer to be able to learn something like that. and Sadie, another language, it isn't hard to learn Spanish, but if you're not speaking it every day or immersing yourself in it, watching, movies on Netflix, for instance, she's so silly. Watching movies on Netflix, for instance, in Spanish, or being around someone who's Hispanic, you're not going to get it, as quickly as you would if I'm trying to say, okay, hey Chad, let's practice this, and it doesn't go quite so well because we don't do it on the day to day. So yeah, I've been trying to say, I say good girl when Sadie comes in. So what is that? Bueno niña. Do you know how odd that sounds to me? But I do it anyway, just so she can get used to it and I can get used to it. And am I saying that right? I think I am. I'll have to ask
You're
my
asking the wrong person.
my
So,
teacher.
um, what else we got?
So we were just talking about the pros and the cons, like their traditions and things like that. Like I know in Medellin, uh, the paisa culture, they talk about, how you dress is very important, right? They are a very clean people. They dress very decent. So if you walk around in flip flops and shorts, they don't consider that well dressed, right? Where we are like, holy cow, I have to be able to wear my flip flops or my shorts. It's not hot in Medellin, but it's definitely not, sweatsuit weather, right? Like it is here in Michigan.
I think the other part is you set yourself up to be a target of
You
somebody who's
do.
not local, right? Because if you just don't understand how that's how their culture works, that must mean you're not one of.
Yeah. They're a very proud people, as they should be. They've taken Medellin from where it was to a magnificent place. Like it is extremely, there are a lot of tourists there, a lot of expats there. It's grown significantly just in the past 2 or 3 years. So still a fraction of the cost to live there, but you don't want to walk around with a flashy watch, flashy jewelry. Then you're placing a target on your back, where that is really something that Americans, we do, right? Really nice cars, nice jewelry. What woman doesn't love the big rock on her finger, that kind of stuff. So we really have to be quite careful, and it's just simple there, you know. In Spain, it's just a safe place. Like I could ride my bike there. I could go out by myself there. I really don't think I would have too many issues there. So, but beyond all of that, Colombia still is ranking at the top for us, just cost of living and how awesome the city is now. There's hamburgers there and pizza there. There's all kinds of different foods there. So it's not like you're having to eat one food or one type of food. There's huge malls there. I don't know that you're really going to miss a whole lot from the States um, being there.
So a significant part of the reason that is the case
Yeah.
is that a lot of it's connected to other parts, specifically like France and London. You can get to, and so
Yeah.
that's just like in America. A lot of people from the north will spend their winters in Florida or some of the southern states. That's how Spain is, specifically the east coast of Spain, is for them. So, with that, that's why everybody speaks Spanish and
Yeah.
English.
Yeah.
And all of the menus will have things written in both English and Spanish. And as you get further south, you get to a type of people where instead of driving it, they'll fly it.
Hmm.
And that's kind of like your Hamptons,
Right.
right? So you have a different, different classes as you go north and as you go south along the coast, because a lot of people either just want to drive it and they'll only go so far by car, or they'll get in a plane and they'll fly it, and that plays into the culture there. English is
Definitely.
just embedded throughout the coast of Spain.
One of the huge bonuses, well, there's several for living in Europe, you do have that freedom to hop on a train, plane, drive it, and you can go to France, you can go to Portugal, you can go to all these different places. You can head to Madrid, you could head to the north coast on the Atlantic side of Spain. That's all amazing stuff, right? English spoken there, right? Great health care, reasonable living, right? It's just it's an amazing place to be, where you don't have, and the safety, you don't have that in Colombia, right? You hop on a plane, right? I can tell you that it's very, very inexpensive to hop on a plane and go to Cartagena for a few days, less than $100 round trip flight, right? And I think it's a 10-hour drive if you were to drive it. So Spain has more options freedom wise, in my opinion, just from what I've studied. Another bonus of Colombia is it's only an hour time difference from where we are here in the States, where it's 6 hours in Spain.
Yeah, so one of the things we're going to be doing is our remote work,
Yeah.
but we work for ourselves. And so, um, there's logistics behind being a digital nomad. All the places we're looking at allow for that, and that plays into taxes, but it also plays into what type of visa or permit in order to stay there longer term rather than just vacationing, right?
Yeah.
Um, and a 1 hour difference communicating with clients versus a 5 hour difference, that's a factor, right?
Huge.
But I think logistically we've figured out a way to make that work so that we don't have to say we can't do Europe, we can't do Spain. We just have to do it differently than what we do now.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to move into talking about your citizenship. So what's happening on Tuesday?
Yeah, so I'm hopping on a flight. I'm going to Washington, D.C., and I'm going to be visiting the consulate of Colombia and getting my Colombian ID and passport. So um, I wouldn't really call it it was a very short term journey. So it's not really a journey. It's really kind of a skip, but it is in fact a journey because there's so much more to come. Born in Colombia, and because I was born there, I have the ability to be a citizen of Colombia just because I was naturally born there.
Hmm.
In the US, you have to go through the paperwork to become a citizen here. So I'm a citizen of the US by naturalized birth, which essentially just means I wasn't born here, but I can do everything except be president. Right? I can do all the things in the United States except for be president. You can't be foreign birth. You have to be,
Born here. Mhm.
born here. And so I can do everything, but I'm a citizen of the US, but I can also be a dual citizen of Colombia. And that's what we're working on right now. Working with the consulate. They gave me all the paperwork, everything that I needed to do. Very quick, very, very quick.
Which
Um,
is not typical in any Latin countries.
right.
Things don't happen quickly.
A lot of other parts of the world just don't have I call it the grind, but like that mandatory instant gratification that America has. We have to have it
Yeah.
now, right? And a lot of the countries we've been looking at for relocating, they don't have that. It's a different way of life. It happens when it happens. And
Spain and Colombia roll like that.
that's going to be some culture shock for us, but I think
Yeah.
we're ready for that because I think that's what's going to be mentally healthy for us. So, anyways, I'm hopping on a plane on Tuesday. I'm going to go get my paperwork. I got my notice from Delta today. They've already upgraded me to first class, so my ticket is
Nice.
been upgraded for that trip. So it's really going to be a really nice trip of, you know, um, taking that next step into what our future looks like.
Yeah. First class, huh? That happens to you often. I feel like somehow you get bumped up. You're so lucky. I
Well,
swear.
as you know, a lot of travel in my past, and so I have that medallion status that Delta offers, and so I'm on the list where a week out from the trip, they put me on the upgrade list.
He's a bougie Delta flyer, by the way.
I am. We've looked at various airlines for going to you know Medellin, for going to Puerto Vallarta, to going to Malaga, Spain, all these various places. And I have a list of Delta versus everybody else. And for me, I've done Spirit and I've done it to
Sure.
where you add on your bags, you add on being able to choose your seat, you add on all these different things, and it end up being the same or very close to what it would have cost with Delta, where those things are included.
Yeah, your
Anyways,
bags, especially like a carry-on with Delta's free, but with Spirit, you're paying $50 or something crazy like that.
now granted,
One way.
the reason it's free with Delta is because we have the medallion, right? If we
Sure.
didn't travel as much as we do and we didn't have that status, we would be paying $60 for that as well. So there are reasons that we get these additional amenities, but the majority of it is because we just have a certain spend amount on our credit card that enables us to have these
Yeah.
additional perks. So all that to say, yes, I am bougie. I do fly Delta, but there is that reasoning behind it. We have Delta Amex cards for our businesses. We have it for our personal, and quite literally our entire life goes on our credit cards because we know those points accumulate.
Yeah.
I was able to do this last minute trip to DC for $12 because I have enough points just
Right.
banked that I could just book it and I have to
Yeah.
just pay the taxes and the fees. So, we're trying to do things smartly, but needless to say, I'm able to jump on a plane, go to DC, turn around, I'm back, landing that same night. Um,
And if you're trying to travel on a budget, which let's be real, most of us are, right? It can get really expensive depending on where you're traveling to. Having that free flight pop up, that's awesome, right? That's amazing. And speaking of that, Medellin pretty much is all credit card. You do want to have a few Colombian pesos there, but it is definitely mostly credit card, same in Spain. So that's pretty awesome.
that's probably a decent topic to talk about at some point as
Yeah.
well. It's just the finance of things. I know you want to jump into our last topic. Um, we chose Amex because of their partnership with Delta. But if you are not biased to your airline, you just want the most affordable, there are other cards that let you earn points and then they can be applied anywhere. And you
Yeah.
can apply it for flights, you can apply it for hotels, you can apply it for um, rental vehicles. So we chose our card very specifically for flight only. And yes, Delta does vacation stuff as well, but we were very intentional with our credit card reward system that we went with, but there's lots of options out there, tons and tons.
Tons.
My one of my really good friends has a different card, but he travels and he does a lot of hotel stays, and
Hmm.
so he uses points towards that, and that's not a benefit that our cards are going to afford us because that's not the most important part for
For
us.
us. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And with that, let's move into balance. And how are we doing all of this, Chad? How is this affecting? We just got married. So we were married on June 2nd of this year, and new dog parents. Sadie will be with us 2 years in December, and three. Nope. Really?
This will be our third year because she's 4 years old. We got her when she was one.
Interesting. I don't know. I think I'm going to have to look at that. I think it's only two.
Oh, then maybe she's turning 3.
I don't. I'll look at it. I'm pretty sure she's turning 4, um, but we really don't know when her birthday is.
And those aren't the things that I'm good at remembering.
Yeah, right. So transitioning into this nomadic life, it's not really nomadic for us. We're not hopping from place to place to place, but it is a huge transition for us to leave here for 4 or 5 months, take our dog, and let's be real, we don't know what this is really like yet. We're just starting, and I have done so much research. I'm almost researched out, and then coming to do this exploratory trip in February will really be the deciding factor for us. But how are we maintaining? Because I'm also transitioning to online work as well. I have a nonprofit now and work out of our home, and work in the community. So that's going to change for a few months out of the year, to where I'll just be online, and I'm cool with it. You already have a website company, like you already work, so you're good, right? So job wise, I think we're going to be okay. But how do you think this is going to play out?
There's a few different ways to earn income. You can work for somebody, you can do investments and portfolios, and then you can do passive income.
Yeah.
And we're converting one of our businesses into a passive, and the goal is to have somebody step in and run that day to day, pay them a
Hmm.
solid salary, and then our cut will be significantly less, but we will also be removed from that business, right? So there's things that we're putting in place to essentially convert our one of our businesses into a passive business, and we'll still have to do visits and calls, and it's still our business. We still need to
Right.
maintain that, but for 5 months of the year, we're going to be removed from that. We have to have somebody in place that we trust,
Definitely.
and with our with my website design business and consulting business, that's something I can already and have been doing remotely already.
For years
Um,
and years, you've had that.
Yeah, so I already that's already in place. I have to obviously notify my clients and let them know what the new protocols and processes will be, but I can't think of a single one that's going to have an issue with that. They'll all support it and love the fact that I'm still available to them as opposed to being passed off. So um, I think for us, the most important thing is to realize that life will be different because wherever we go, it could be Finland, the culture is going to be different, but we're going to choose a place where the culture fits where we want to be, what we want to be surrounded by. And there might come a time where we decide that's full time where we're going to be. That is down the road potentially. We don't even know if that's the case, but we do know, and the whole idea started with, I wonder if we can do Florida 6 months of the year.
Yeah, that's how it started.
That's how it started, and then we
Because your
looked.
dad, that's what he does. He's a snowbird.
Yep, so that's what my dad does, and I looked at Texas and looked at different parts of the Gulf Coast and looked at the East Coast of Florida, and there's nothing wrong with it, but we found that it's still
It's
America,
expensive.
so it's still expensive, and it's
Yeah.
still, the high cost of healthcare. And when you take in your total income and you figure out how much is allocated to just live, to just survive, and then you apply that same formula because we're making our income eligible to work remotely.
Yeah.
You take that same formula and you say, okay, country B, what does it look like there? We're going to have a much higher quality of life in any of these three other places, but really specifically Colombia, super high quality, Spain, super high quality. So we can, with that comes having to understand that it's going to be different. It's going to be different culturally, but we're going to change. We're going to be people. The research you've been doing, we hear all the time about the culture shock people have
Yeah.
coming back to the United
To the
States.
United States, definitely. Yeah, that's what happened when I went home during COVID to North Carolina. I went down there for a couple of months and I had such a culture shock because I've lived in Michigan now for 24 years. Both of my children have been raised here. And so going back down there was like, whoa, it was very, very different. So I can only imagine. I do believe I'll adapt better, babe. I will adapt better to Colombia. Bet you I will. Because, I'm a Sagittarius. I love to travel and explore and love new things. So I'm so excited. I can't wait for you to start learning Spanish.
I think the other part that we didn't really discuss here, and we don't have to discuss it, but there's it's you've got Spain,
Yeah.
which is an entirely different continent. Continent, we would have to fly there. That's mandatory. Colombia,
Yes.
fly in, and I don't think there's a nonstop. So we're gonna have
A layover
layovers.
for sure.
There's Mexico, which is one way you could find lots of different places in Mexico. And so, some of the primary things that people talk about are cost, culture changes, and adjusting to a new way of life. And I think a really important point for us is in our preparation. I think mentally we're already gone from here. Like we're going through the day to day,
That's so true.
like we're going through the day to day. We do our grocery shopping. We went to the farmers market today and picked up our meat because we like to support local, and say hi to all the people there that we've developed relationships with. Um, but when I think about given the opportunity to be in Colombia with an apartment and all the things that come with it, how much are we going to miss or regret from the U.S.? And I
Right.
think that list is very short.
Yeah. I do know that we will miss some things, right? Like riding my bike, for instance. But I don't think it's going to be as bad. Now, this is just us assuming, right? Just based on all the research and whatnot, and actually talking to people that live in Colombia as well. So I don't know. I'm pretty excited about this. I think that we're ready, really ready. So
We have there's things we have to do. There's time when you think about finances, you have to have a certain amount in the bank just in case things happen
for
logistically.
sure,
There's a lot that goes into preparing for this. So our first step is doing our you know doing our tour, I guess you could call it, where we go there for 7, 10 days or whatever the number
Our
is,
exploratory
our
trip.
exploratory trip, and see and feel, is this right for
I
us?
can't wait to go to the supermercado there, or just the mercado. I can't wait to walk down the streets. Like, the fruits there are so fresh. They have zero sprays or anything on them. Like, they're straight farm to table. And babe, I cannot wait to go take a tour of coffee where they make, like, where they grow it. I can't wait. We love Colombian coffee. That's our favorite.
So we named this podcast, what do we name it?
Beyond the Desk.
Beyond the Desk. And the reason we called it that is because we are taking our desk lives and we're taking them remotely. But more importantly, we want to discuss all the things when it comes to going beyond the desk. So in America, there's that hustle and bustle and grind of working, right?
The
And
rat race.
we said we're not going to retire at the age of 65. We're going to semi-retire today and put the things in place in order to financially support ourselves. And that's where the passive income piece comes in, right? So it's not that we're going to save up a ton of money and then live off it. We're going to put things in place that continue to fund us to do the things that we love to do.
Which is a bigger reason why we're choosing countries that it is much cheaper. Like, you have a better lifestyle with a cheaper cost of living, so that we can take what we're making now or and more and bank that, right? So that we have that nest egg as well. And we can keep working too, but working half the time as what we work now.
And that's going to include, choosing countries that allow for global income and allow us to
Yeah.
be taxed in one place and not double tax. And so, because I have no intention of saying we have to save X amount of dollars. That's not how I want to live our life. I want to say we need to generate monthly X amount of
Mhm.
dollars and then set up the pieces in order to make that happen.
Yeah.
Which means our income till the day we die is going to continue to keep going.
Yes.
It's not going to be something where we just fully retire. So we'll live semi-retired from this point on, but that doesn't mean that we can't generate the income that we want. We're just going to do it a little bit differently than the traditional American way. And
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see what that looks like, because we got a lot of the pieces in place. And this whole podcast, the whole point is for you and I to look each other in the eye and take people on this journey that we're going on.
Yeah.
Because I think there is a different way to live the life people dream about. And I don't think it has to be the way that, we've been taught you have to do.
So many things we've been taught. So I can't wait to do this with you. I love doing life with you. So I'm really excited. And we're going to wrap this up with something that you've said to me from day one. Let's see if you remember what you say. Amy,
Do I have any hints?
we can do what?
Oh, really? It's just a pop quiz. Amy, we can, well, I mean, I can fill in the blank and make you cry if you really want me to. So, Amy, we can do anything we want to.
There you
We have
go.
the ability, we are capable, and I think most importantly, we have each other. We have the ability to support each other one way or another, not just financially, not just emotionally, but we see each other, what we need, and then we bring to the table what we need. I don't
Yeah.
think that there's anything that we can't accomplish. And we're going to have ups and downs, and we're going to have tough times, and we're going to have brilliant times. And I think at the end of the day, because we're doing that together, that's what's going to make this journey the journey.
Yeah. I think I figured out the secret sauce to marriage.
One of them being ADHD brain.
That's you. No. I think you really have to like your partner. Not just love them, but really, really like them. Like hanging around them, being around. Doesn't mean we don't need our own space sometimes, but like, I genuinely dig you. Generally dig you.
I'm going to do an interesting call out. Growing up, I have a sister, and I have 3 stepsisters. And there was a time, I'm not even going to name who it was, but a parent said, really upset with one of them, said, "I love you, but right now I do not like
Yeah.
you." And I think a lot of parents can probably,
I did that with my kids before. I have. Yeah.
yeah. So, all right, well, wrap this up. Take us out.
Yeah. So thanks everybody for listening. And my sweetheart and I are going to go enjoy the rest of our Saturday afternoon. So we will see you on the next one. Have a great one.